my name is Claire and I make true crime videos every week. So if that's your thing, please come and join me. Today we've got a stonker of a case. So yeah, please come join me if that's your thing. This week I am going to talk about a case that I've not really heard very many people talking about. And it's quite an interesting one because it's got quite a twist in it. So today I'm going to talk about the murder of Tony Parsons. This case is set in Scotland. I have been doing a lot of Scottish cases. Maybe I'm just drawn to them. But this one is set in Scotland. This is about Tony Parsons. So Tony Parsons is 63 years old, or was 63 years old. He came from a place called Tillicoultry. Now, he was a rugby mad guy. He played rugby, he coached rugby, he refereed rugby, really into it. You know, that was his life. He liked to stay fit and healthy. Because he had a wife, he had 2 children, he also had 2 grandchildren, so he obviously wanted to have an active life, to spend lots of time with them. Tony was ex-Navy, so that's what he used to do. And yeah, just all round described as a really nice guy. Tony did have some difficult times through his life, and one of the most difficult was when he got diagnosed with prostate cancer. Tony thankfully got out the other side. He had treatment and he got through it and he got the all clear. But having this profoundly affected Tony, and he decided he wanted to give back to the people that helped him through his journey. So Tony decided to do a charity bike ride. Tony decided to do this charity bike ride in Scotland. He decided to cycle from Fort William, which is up north in the Highlands of Scotland, all the way back down to his hometown of Tillicoultry. So that is about 104 miles, which sounds like an absolute leg killer to me. Tony set off bright and early in the morning, jumped on the train, took his bike, all the things he would need for a day of cycling, and headed on up, got the train all the way up to Fort William. He decided to do this cycle later on in the evening so that it'd be quieter. So he started off from Fort William at about 4 p.m. in the evening. He had his high-vis outfit on, you know, everything he needed on his bike, lights and everything ready to go. Tony can be seen cycling his bike all the way down the A82, which is the main road that goes all the way down that he'll be following. He can be seen cycling through, or he is spotted by passers-by cycling through Glencoe, which is one of the most beautiful parts of Scotland. Highly recommend travelling there or Googling it if you haven't ever seen it before. It's gorgeous. So yeah, he is seen on his journey, making his way, nice progress. Tony is last seen in the Bridge of Orchy Hotel, which is a gorgeous big hotel up in the kind of Glencoe area. It's really nice. And after this, he is then seen heading southwards, all on the route, the A82 route, and heading down to Tyndrum, which is another little town. Although I don't even know if you'd call it a town, it's Totty anyway. But after this point, there's no more sightings of Tony on his bike. When Tony didn't return, his family obviously began to worry and they contacted the police straight away, and that is when the search began. There was a huge media presence, lots of posters put up around the area. Local people were advised to check their outhouses, check their gardens, make sure Tony hadn't gone in there for whatever reason to kind of get shelter or to hunker down for the evening, whatever it may be. So lots of people checked, but there was no luck there. There were extensive searches carried out by the mountain rescue team. They had police dogs. They got air support called in because of the really difficult terrain in the Highlands of Scotland. They tried everything, you know, every kind of search that they could, but nothing came of anything. So that was all in 2017. Now let's fast forward all the way to the 30th of December 2020, and out of the blue, 2 people are arrested. Oh, how did that happen? What happened? I hear you asking. Well, they put out reports saying that human remains had been found of a body that was buried, and they were sent away for testing. The tests came back and confirmed that these were the remains of Tony Parsons. So after 3 years, how did they manage to find the body of Tony Parsons? Well, it was a lot to do with a can of Red Bull. It took 3 years of waiting until a man called Alexander McKellar, he finally broke. He carried this secret for so long, and one day he was talking to his girlfriend, fiance I think she might have been, about their future. It was one of those conversations, you know, the kind of really deep, meaningful ones that you have at the beginning of relationships, or you know, when you're getting to know somebody, that kind of thing. So they were having one of these conversations, and this dark secret came out of Alexander. The story that Alexander had to tell was that him and his brother, they were twins. His brother's name was Robert. They were at a shooting party. Now, shooting parties are really common in Scotland. So they were at a shooting party, and it was at the Bridge of Ochre Hotel. So they finished their shoot for the day, then they went back to the hotel and they had dinner. While they were having dinner, they had a little drinky poo. They maybe had more than just one drinky poo. And after the party, they live in a really remote area, so it's not as if there's like taxis lined up just to take everybody home. These roads are really quiet, these towns are really quiet. So they decided to jump in their car and drive them home. More specifically, Alexander was driving and Robert was the passenger. So these country roads in Scotland are dark, there's no streetlights, they're windy little roads, a lot of them single carriageway. So these brothers were driving on these roads, or Alexander was driving on these roads drunk. And the story that he told his partner was that he struck Tony while they were driving, and they just drove off. They didn't stop to check if Tony was okay. They were so out of it that they just drove off and left him there. In actual fact, Tony would have survived for at least 20 to 30 minutes with the injuries that he had sustained. He suffered catastrophic rib, pelvis and spine fractures, and probably a collapsed lung because of the rib fractures that were caused by this car hitting him. Alexander and Robert drove off, and they drove to their home, which was on an estate called the Och Estate. When they got back there, while they were there, they must have come up with their plan, because they went back in a different vehicle to the site where Tony was. And at this point, when they got back to him, he probably would have been dead. They returned with a kind of pickup truck type vehicle, and they loaded Tony and all of his belongings, his bike, into the back of it. They covered Tony's body and his things with a tarpaulin and returned back to the Och Estates, and they drove to a place. It was kind of secluded place. This estate was massive. It's kind of secluded place where they would usually put the carcasses of dead animals that they had found around about the estate. It was where they used to put them. So they took Tony's body, they buried him in a shallow grave, and they covered his body in bleach. They disposed of the rest of his possessions, Apparently they stole £60 from his wallet. His bicycle they hid behind a waterfall that was on the estate, but that's actually never been recovered, along with all his other possessions. They've never been recovered. Over the next few days, it was cover up, cover up, cover up. Everything the brothers had to do, they did. They took the car away to get repaired. Alexander told the mechanics that he'd hit a deer. And they tried to put all this behind them. They tried to go on with their lives and lead normal lives. Up until the point where Alexander couldn't keep it in anymore, and he told his partner what he had done. Alexander not only told her, he actually took her to the place where they had buried Tony's body, and she at one point had decided that she needed to tell the police about this. This was a murder cover-up that she had now had knowledge of. So when Alexander took her out to where the body was buried, she, without Alexander knowing, dropped her can of Red Bull on the burial site so that she could find the place, like so she could lead the police back there. I mean, what a brave woman. That must have been such a difficult thing for her to do, but I mean, she left there with the knowledge that was going to provide closure to Tony's family, who were still none the wiser to what had happened to him. After she had left Alexander, she contacted the police, and she took the police straight there. She told them everything. She took them straight there, found the Red Bull can that she had dropped, and the police started the process of identifying Tony's body. Initially, both brothers denied murdering Tony because of the actions that they took that evening, and the case was going to go to trial. But thankfully, the brothers saw sense. So Robert was acquitted of murder. So remember, Robert was the passenger, still involved, completely involved. So he was acquitted of murder but pled guilty to attempting to defeat the ends of justice, which basically means he tried to stop the police and the courts from doing their jobs. So he pled guilty to that, and he was jailed for 5 years and 3 months. Alexander ended up pleading guilty to culpable homicide and attempting to defeat the ends of justice as well. And he received a jail term of 12 years. These two brothers completely ruined a family's life. They took the life of someone that was doing something good. He was doing something so self-sacrificing, and he was doing it to help other people. And they did that all because they chose to get behind the wheel after drinking. And then they lied about what they had done and tried to hide it, tried to cover it up. They are absolute cowards, in my opinion. Thank you so much for watching this video this week. I hope you enjoyed it. I know it was a bit of a twisty one at points. But yeah, if you like these kinds of videos, please join me. I make true crime videos every week. My name is Claire, and yeah, I love you and leave you.